All right, welcome back to another episode of the Black Ronins of Japan, courtesy of YouTube. I am your host, Osamurai-san. The Shinobi Bro is here as well. First and foremost, we just want to give a shout out to our subscribers. Thanks for listening in. Thanks for tuning in. We truly appreciate the love and support. 日本の視聴者は YouTube のブラックロニンシリーズへようこそ。どうもありがとうございました。Hope you all are doing well this evening or this morning, depending on where you're listening in around the world. Man, do we have a lot to catch up on. We had previous interviews we completed. There's some news going on right now in the world of Japan, and so we're definitely going to be hitting up on those topics. But before I do so, I gotta reintroduce once again the Shinobi Bro himself, and that is Kirigakure Jones. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu.
はい、ありがとうございます。Black Ronins series へようこそ。All right, so summer is behind us. We are in the fall season. Where I'm at in the country, it starts to get chilly. The leaves start to turn. Games, football games, stuff like that start up. So I always get energized around this time of year, not to be confused with Energon cubes. But anyway, just wanted to shout out the chat, knowledge, and also the Supreme Brother, Logic's finest, world traveler. Yeah. So salute to the chat, Roger, knowledge, Altruism, Free Zone Lou, all the supporters. So really appreciate y'all. Yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot to talk about. And I'm feeling pretty optimistic about things. And we were chopping it up on the back end, brainstorming ideas about not just future content ideas, but also the future for our seeds. Because, SYSBM is for the children. But anyway, Kick it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But yeah, definitely we got our main guys in the chat, so I definitely got to do some special intros for them. So first up that came in, shout out to our man, Mr. Free Zone Lou, and you already know his intro.
Are you aware of the proper method that one should use to eliminate weeds? You see, weeds, when left unchecked, will rob the flower of its proper nutrients. So what do? If you uproot the weed, then you disturb the flower. Its roots and soil don't like to be interfered with.
So, what do?
You learn to plant flowers that utilize the weeds as a form of nourishment. Take a look. This flower is an example of a beautiful exterior masking its true intentions that are really quite brutal.
Man, shout out to Free Zone Lou.
Shout out to you.
And then next up, our good friend, Mr. Altruism. Yes, salute to you as well. And definitely, I have to play your intro, good sir.
What you gonna do? 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 you gonna do? What you gonna do? What you gonna do?
Man, I laugh every time. Oh boy, yeah. Shout out to Asianism.
Shout out to you. I know there's a method to the madness. I'm always curious to see what intros and what memes are going to come up next. I know that Mr. Logic's finest. I mean, I don't know what you would do for him. Maybe you'd have a passport on fire, or maybe you'd have a Ronins striding across the field. I'm not even sure.
Well, our good friend and co-host of the War Room, Logic's Finest. I mean, we already got an intro just for him.
I'm so disappointed, Ichigo. So very disappointed. Sadly, your sword exhibits only fear. When you counter, it's because you fear being killed. When you attack, you fear killing. And when you try to protect someone, you fear you could let them die. The only thing that your sword speaks of is senseless fright. And that's not good. What you do not need in battle is fear. Nothing will come of it. You counter, you don't let them cut you. If you protect someone, you don't let them die. When you attack, you kill.
And there it is.
There it is. That's
There
why
it is.
that intro is titled the Shinigami.
With Mr. Ronin Kinshin, I'm thinking.
Oh yeah. That I did like a special little twist, specifically for that one. You know, because he had told us before that Samurai X Rurouni Kenshin is his favorite anime, one of his all time favorites. So it's like, yeah, I can make something for that. So yeah,
Shout out to Logic's finest.
Shout out to him. So before we get started, I definitely would like to give some shout outs for some Cash App donations that came in this month. First off, shout out to Latina Patriot. She gave us a $5 Cash App a couple of weeks back. And so we just, we got to bring in Aku whenever anybody donates to the Black Ronins podcast.
You already know.
You already know Aku doesn't like that.
Samurai, why won't you die?
So thank you very much, Latina Patriot. Arigatou gozaimashita.
Arigatou gozaimashita.
And then last but not least, shout out to another good friend of ours, Laughing Dog. And this is probably one of the biggest contributions yet. This gentleman donated $25 to the Black Ronins podcast. And so, we'll definitely play a coup for now.
Samurai, why won't you die?
So definitely, Laughing Dog, if you happen to be in the chat and everything or listening in, definitely feel free to let us know in the chat what's your favorite anime character or whatnot, or just shoot us an email with that, and we'll definitely come up with a special intro for you, because that was just a awesome donation on your part. We appreciate every bit of it. So arigatou gozaimashita.
Thank you. Arigatou gozaimasu.
All right. So now that the house announcement is in order, Shinobi bro, you already know what the next segment is all about.
We already know.
Man, so let's go ahead and play that intro.
Ein. Shu. Kai. Shin. Raitsu.
Nin
Oh,
nin.
yes. All right, good sir. The floor is yours.
All right, I appreciate it, and shout out to Rael. Been a long time no see, my brother. So, yeah, let me get started. We have a lot to cover, and if Brother Logic is in the chat, then he can definitely um, help me out or correct me as we go along because he is also a professional when it comes to these matters. But Osama Raisan, you had sent me this article not too long ago. Apologies.
Oh,
So
you're all good.
you had sent me this article, Japanese yen collapse forces nation reopen to travelers. So I wanted to take a look at this and try to explain a bit, as far as I'm aware, kind of what's happening and why Fox Business in this case would make this kind of art. Why would they title it like this? What
Mm,
exactly is going on? And when I was kind of doing some research for this segment, I thought that this tied in nicely with kind of the broader trends that America is moving towards, kind of the deepening relationship that the US and Japan have when it comes to things like currencies and finance. But more importantly, I think that there's going to be a lot of changes when it comes to US industrial policy, which
mm.
will have some very long term ramifications. But, and let me know if the audio is good before I launch into this.
At the moment, Shinobi bro, I don't hear anything. I just hear you.
Okay, good, good, good. Okay, that's what I
Mm,
wanted. Okay, cool. So, all right, let's get into this. So, this says Japanese yen collapse forces nation to reopen for travelers, and we're just going to take, we're going to dip lightly through some of this. We're not going to go through the whole thing for the sake of time.
mm,
But starts off, the Japanese government is walking back years of harsh travel restrictions as the yen collapses in value due to a stagnant economy and weak trade. And then I think we're going to talk a little bit more about what's happening with that. So I'm going to skip this section. Japan, until recently, has all but completely rejected foreigners seeking entry or re entry into the country. The dramatic reversal was announced as the Japanese government struggles to keep the yen from further collapse. And the yen fell to a 24-year low point last week, its value plummeting to a mere 144 yen to the US dollar. We're going to go into this a little bit more. This is a bit dated, but the point stands that the yen is rather weak compared to the US dollar at the moment.
mm.
Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary Seiji Kihara told Fuji TV on Sunday that Japan is considering a total rollback of all major restrictions. Amid the weakening yen, incoming tourism will have the greatest effect, Kihara said, according to the Japan Times. And there are the autumn leaves and powder snow. There are many foreign visitors who want to come visit Japan. So, why is tourism so important? Why are Japanese government officials making these pronouncements? Why is the lockdown that has basically kept a lot of travelers out of Japan? Why has that done so much damage? So we need to actually turn to this is from Kyodo, and this actually happened, I believe, on Friday or maybe Thursday. So this is a bit more
Mm.
recent. So I wanted to lead with this first. Japan conducts yen buying intervention for first time in 24 years. Japan on Thursday stepped into the foreign exchange market amid the yen's abrupt fall, the finance minister said, in its first intervention to prop up the currency in 24 years, as rising import costs have been dragging down the country's broader economy. The surprise market operation comes as Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has been urged to take measures to alleviate the negative impact of price hikes, hurting the household and corporate sectors, with this cabinet's public approval rating decreasing recently. Later Thursday, Finance Manager Shunichi Suzuki said at a press conference that the government intervened in the foreign exchange market on the same day in a bid to stem volatile market moves, although he did not elaborate on the exact timing of the operation. Suzuki was also known about whether Japan unilaterally stepped into the currency market, while emphasizing that the government of the world's third largest economy, has been making efforts to obtain understanding from other nations about the intervention. And this is interesting what he says here about, was Japan alone in this operation? So, what is a currency intervention? So, basically, that's when a government comes into the market and they basically try to either appreciate or depreciate their currency. They will either buy or sell as appropriate to try to get the desired effect. Now, it's well known amongst, forex traders and others in the market that these government interventions really don't last very long. They kind of have a temporary effect most of the time, but I think that the government of Japan wanted to keep the speculators, the yen bears, at bay.
Mm.
So, just kind of continuing here, earlier in the day, Kanda, a senior finance ministry official, said Japan could intervene in the market anytime to prevent the yen from plunging further, hours after the currency hit a 24-year low against the US dollar. The Bank of Japan, is ordered by the finance ministry, is believed to have sold dollar-denominated assets it holds, such as US treasuries, to buy the yen in the financial market, investors said. Now, a key question here: did the U.S. government come in to help the Japanese in this operation? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. We don't know. But if we
Mm.
look at the past, they mentioned this was the first operation in 24 years, and previous operations of this type. It basically took the U.S. government helping the Japanese government to intervene to kind of stabilize the yen back then in the past. So, what is a currency? How does it affect, how do exchange rates affect a currency? Why would opening up Japan to tourism be a necessary step to help a weak yen? Why is that? To kind of help answer that question, and this has many different answers that we could pose, but we need to
Mm.
understand basically, how do currencies trade? So currencies today are free floating. So the dollar trades against other currencies, the yen trades against other currencies, the euro trades against other currencies. So you could basically buy a euro dollar, you could buy a dollar yen, you could buy, name your currency pair. But this particular article from Investopedia kind of gives us some ideas of how currencies kind of move in relationship to each other. So I'm just going to read some of these key highlights. Higher interest rates in a country can increase the value of that country's currency relative to nations offering lower rates. So we all know that Japan has had very low rates for a very low time. We also know that the Fed has been very aggressive in raising interest rates. So it's a pretty simple calculation. If you have money that you want to put to work, you can either buy a US Treasury, maybe a 2-year bond that's yielding somewhere around 3.89, maybe 4%. Or you could buy a Japan bond that is negative or close to negative. Well, it's fairly close. I mean, it's kind of an open and shut case. You kind of know what you're looking to do. And so the dollar becomes, in most cases, very attractive. Like Free Zone Loot is saying, and he's one of those speculators that the government of Japan is interested in putting in check, so to speak. He says he made some good money selling the Great British Pound JPY and US dollar JPY. This is not a trading platform. We do not recommend any specific trades. Please speak to a properly licensed advisor when considering these types of activities. But Free Zone Loon brings up a great point. Speculators are seeking profit, and
Mm.
interest rates are a kind of a key part in how currencies are valued against each other. They go on to say that political and economic stability and demand for a country's goods and services also factor into it. Um, Balance of trade, are they running at a trade surplus or a trade deficit? Is the country financially stable? What does inflation look like in a particular country? And then they go on to say, and this is going to be a key point, that as the U.S. comes out of the pandemic, the interest rate hikes that the Federal Reserve has done recently have basically strengthened the value of the U.S. dollar. And like Frizo Lund is saying, the euro is trading below the dollar's value for the first time, I think, ever.
Mm.
I think this is like the first time the euro's ever gone under parity. The British pound, I haven't looked at that lately, but I think that the market did not like. I think the Conservative Party in the UK wants to have massive tax cuts, and they want to borrow to basically finance those tax cuts as part of their economic stimulus. They have their new PM, Liz Truss, has come in and her cabinet. I don't think the market particularly liked what they were planning. So I haven't looked at the British pound to see how that's trading, but just a lot of things happening in Europe that are putting a lot of pressure on currencies there, especially the euro. So we kind of have a general idea of how currencies could possibly move against each other. So this is a site called NN Investment Partners, and the title of the article is "The Bank of Japan's Yield Curve Control Strategy is Coming Under Pressure." So they say that the Bank of Japan's yield curve control policy aims to increase inflation to 2%. So Japan has been wanting inflation for a very long time. And I think that conversation is beyond the scope of this segment. I have some ideas as far as why Japan has not been able to achieve the inflation they want. I'm not sure that inflation is necessarily the ideal situation for them, but that's another conversation for another time. Well, all we're really concerned with is that the Bank of Japan, the Nichigen, has been very insistent on ensuring that they're targeting this rate of inflation. They say that depreciation of the yen could have a mixed impact on the Japanese economy, and that they also say the Bank of Japan may be forced to adjust its yield curve control at some point. So yield curves are very esoteric, so I'm not going to go into all of that here. But essentially, what they want to do is they want to keep the value of their bonds lower, because the idea is that if they keep their currency weaker, then they could hopefully trigger inflation. That's kind of what they've been seeking. I think that their results have been mixed. I'm not sure if they're really getting the inflation they thought they would get. But the article says here, in 2016, the Bank of Japan adopted an extreme version of this strategy called yield curve control, through which the policy rate was reduced to negative 10 basis points and that the 10-year yield was fixed at 0%. The Bank of Japan promised to maintain yield curve control for as long as was necessary to achieve its 2% inflation target in a stable manner. So, without going into a whole lot of very technical aspects of this, basically Japan wants lower yields. They want to keep their currency weaker. They don't want to raise interest rates. Japan is alone, I believe, in the major central banks of the world in not raising rates. I know that, the ECB and European Central Bank has been raising interest rates. The Fed has been raising interest rates. I believe the Bank of England has been raising interest rates. Pretty sure, and Logix Finance could probably correct me if I'm wrong, I think that the Australian Reserve Bank of Australia raised interest rates. So you have this huge differential between what other currencies, what other countries are yielding versus what Japan's bonds are yielding. And the market is obviously trying to test the Japanese currency. They believe that the currency should go up. Yields or interest rates should move higher. The market wants to see that in certain quarters. So Japan does not want to change this yet. This is why they're kind of coming in and doing interventions. They're saying they're going to do these interventions to try to keep those speculators like Freeze on Lu, try to keep them at bay. But eventually, they will probably have to do that at some point.
Mm.
But continuing on, I think that basically what this article is trying to say, and the reason why that the defense minister said that travel and tourism was so important, is that a big factor of currency value goes back to old-fashioned supply and demand. So right now, people want dollars. There's a instrument called the euro dollar, and this is basically an instrument where international banks, international corporations, they can basically lend, they can borrow in US dollars. So
Mm.
it's US dollar denominated assets or debt in most cases outside of the United States. So you have businesses, you have others who are demanding US dollars. So, for example, with the whole situation in Europe right now, there is a huge demand for dollars because typically they were buying energy using euros, but now Europe is searching for alternatives due to the ongoing conflict happening there. Now they're wanting to basically, they're demanding dollars to buy energy in US dollars. So the yen, obviously, due to all these interest rate differentials and other factors, people have not been demanding as much yen.
Mm.
And people will demand yen if they're coming to Japan to buy, goods and services in Japan. So essentially, that's one of the reasons I think that this minister is saying that tourism is so important, because if you have tourists coming in from around the globe, if you want to spend money locally, guess what you're going to do? You're going to sell, or you're going to trade in your dollar, your euro, your pound, your rupee, whatever it is, and you're going to buy, or you're going to hold, or you're going to demand yen. So the idea is that, if demand for yen comes up, that could hopefully take some pressure off kind of where the US dollar is. Because basically what's happening, in my opinion, is King Dollar. King Dollar is destroying the world right now and will
Right.
continue to destroy the world so long as these interest rate moves keep happening. So, for example, and this feeds into a bigger trend. We got to understand kind of what's happening on a broader scale. The United States is basically tooling up for great power competition. I like to call it block politics. And we've talked about this here on the channel, on the platform. Basically, in my view, you're going to have different blocks. You're going to have the US block, which will include countries like Great Britain, Japan, Israel, Australia, and others, others of that type. So you're going to have the American bloc. And then you're going to have a Russia, China, Iran bloc. You could probably throw India in that block too. And that's going to be led by most likely China, for example. So you're going to have these different regional blocks. And so the United States is positioning itself for this long-term competition. And the US and Japan are extremely close allies. And so I think there's going to be a lot of kind of long-term structural changes in the global economy, currencies, how these things work. So anyway, Larry Summers, he is a very well-connected Democratic insider, former Treasury Secretary. He basically says the dollar can go further with huge advantage for the U.S. And let's see if Bloomberg wants to cooperate here. Okay, they're not going to cooperate it. Anyway, he did a video interview not too long ago on Bloomberg, and he was basically saying kind of what I've been saying, that King Dollar is here. So
Mm.
long as the Fed is battling inflation and these interest rates are going higher, the U.S. economy is kind of positioning itself for this black politics. The dollar is going to move higher. The dollar is very strong right now. And I know there's a lot of people that are kind of into the whole dollar collapse scenario. A lot of people are into that. A lot of people point to what Russia and China are doing on the currency front. They're having swaps. They're opening up, Shanghai Gold Exchange and others. And that's all very important and very relevant. But King Dollar is here. So long as the Fed and the US government are pursuing the policies that they are pursuing, you are going to see the strong dollar. That's going to put a lot of pressure on other countries and other currencies, including the yen. So I found this article. It's called Congress's Climate Triple Whammy: Innovation, Investment, and Industrial Policy. And I want to underline this. I want to underline this point. This isn't just a 2 or 3 year phenomenon. What we see here is the United States changing the game. They are aligning themselves. And a lot of people will kind of think that, okay, we have President Biden and he's completely different than former President Trump, and they're diametrically opposed to each other. I think in some ways that's true, but in a lot of ways, they are very similar. In a lot of ways, this policy, this industrial policy that we're looking at, is basically going to be the long-term policy. Let's take a look. So this was on August the 22nd. Between a bipartisan infrastructure bill, Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, potentially the largest investment in American research and science in decades, the CHIPS and Science Act, and the historic climate spending contained in the IRA, the United States is on the path to a range of technology transitions that could transform our economy into a clean energy future. And then you could probably add another one to this, because President Biden signed an executive order basically ordering a whole of government approach into like biopharmaceutical and other type of research. This is basically America First with a fancier name. This is not too significantly different than what the former President Trump was looking to implement. In a lot of ways, the Biden team is taking this kind of America First perspective and they are running with it. So you have to understand that what's happening with the yen, what's happening with the Fed, what's happening with inflation. This is not a temporary thing. And like Rael said, he said that he was reading a book about, human resources. You had a lot of people retire during the pandemic. You have a lot of people that left the labor force and they're not coming back. So now we have a labor shortage on top of that. So, we are looking at a multi-year, maybe even multi-decade realignment that we have to take into account. So basically what they're saying is, even without accounting for the unpredictable effects of faster technological innovation, for example, quantum computing and others, and political feedback, these efforts are projected to reduce U.S. emissions by around 40% compared with 2005 levels, and at 3.5 trillion in new cumulative capital investments over the next decade. $3.5 trillion. That's not a small amount. Guess what we're going to pay for these investments in? We're going to use the US dollar for these investments. Remember what we said about how currencies get valued. Interest rates are a big part of that, but also demand. We're going to be spending a whole lot of money, and there's going to be a whole lot of companies and a whole lot of countries that want to get in on this action. And guess what currency they're going to need to get in on this action? It's not going to be the yen. It's not going to be the euro. It's not going to be the Chinese yuan or the Russian ruble. It's going to be the good old US of A greenback. So we have to understand that, the point this article is making is that it is a triple whammy or even a quadruple whammy if you think about that bio executive order that the president signed not too long ago. And this is another, and this is really the bookend of this thing because we talked about the Japanese yen and travel. Why would Fox Business write an article like this? And then we're going to end this with a story from The Hill, why friendshoring is at the top of Yellen's agenda in Japan. Janet Yellen, she's the former chairman of the Federal Reserve. She's now the Treasury Secretary. We know Larry Summers. He was hooked up very well with the Bidens. They're all on board. They're all on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
So, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, this is back on, what was this? This was published July of this year, but still relevant. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is in Tokyo meeting with Japanese officials about ways to restructure supply chains to bring down inflation. Specifically, she'll be talking about friendshoring, a riff on the term onshoring that refers to the process of rejigging supply chains to favor U.S.-friendly countries that is gaining popularity in policy-making circles. As U.S. battles high inflation while keeping an eye on the geopolitical fallout from the war in Ukraine, alliances with key countries in East Asia are rising to the forefront of the U.S. economic agenda. Friendshoring aims to increase economic cooperation with allies to avoid production and transportation snags made worse by geopolitical developments like the pandemic and the war in Ukraine. Yellen is meeting Tuesday with Japanese business leaders to discuss how friendshoring with trusted economic partners can help ease inflationary pressures over time and address the bottlenecks that are raising prices for consumers, the Treasury Department said in a statement. Strict lockdowns in China, for example, contributed to labor shortages in one of the world's most important labor markets, which translated into production stoppages and delays that ultimately contributed to higher prices for U.S. consumers. Now, we haven't talked about this in this particular segment, but the Chinese yuan is having problems too. That is also weakening against King dollar. So, to kind of wrap things up here, because I know I've gone on and on here, but my takeaway from this, and Rael makes a good point. He says, we spoke about this last year. This is the Monroe Doctrine projected globally in economic fashion. And exactly right. We've got the Indo-Pacific Economic Cooperative or something. I mean, there's a lot happening in this space. The U.S. and its partners, including Japan, are closer than ever before, especially the U.S. and Japan. So, brothers, take heed. There are going to be many opportunities for brothers that are in position to do business, to travel, to live, and to work. Because this project that we find ourselves in, it's written into the law. Congress has passed the laws. This is cross administrations. This is a Republican and a Democrat agenda. So I think that on the one hand, we can say that, yes, the yen is weaker and lower because of, kind of what's going on with interest rates. But also, I think it comes down to good old fashioned demand. The government of Japan needs people to demand to use the yen more. And since the yen is not a, global reserve currency, kind of the next best step is to purchase Japanese goods and Japanese services. And in order to do that, you're going to need to convert your currency, whatever that may be, into yen. So that's my wrap up on the whole yen situation. I hope that kind of clears things up somewhat. Thoughts?
Yeah, I was just looking at the numbers and everything, and to me, it just makes sense. Is one of the reasons why that the Japanese government decided, you know what, the time is now to go ahead and reopen fully for tourism. And we definitely have an article which in a bit will kind of touch more base on that and everything, and why right now would actually be a perfect time to travel to Japan while the yen is in its current state. But yeah, that's amazing information. It's definitely something to where Many people, like in the chat and who will be listening in, after the stream and all, definitely want to say you want to take advantage if you want to travel, even if you decide, okay, we'll wait a bit until we travel next year. Definitely take advantage while this yen is at its state. Because, I mean, I remember when I went back in 2019, right before the pandemic, and the yen at the time was like 108 yen for one American dollar. And now looking at the numbers, it's like 145 yen to one American dollar. So it is really there for the taking.
Definitely, and it's one of those things that I mean, I'm not a, it's one of those things that in my profession kind of reminds me of like old episode of Vampire Hunter D where I guess the lady that was being stalked by a vampire, she was talking about her business as vampire hunters. And
Mm,
then she says something like, if you want to know about werewolves, ask the werewolf hunters. So I'm going to kind of punt to our currency experts and I'm going to leave it to them to make long-term predictions. But I mean, I think that the situation that we find ourselves in with, higher interest rates, with inflation, with currency differentials, I mean, until, the current Bank of Japan governor, Kuroda-san, I think he's leaving. I think it's next year.
mm,
Maybe at that point, they may decide to get more aggressive and let the yen kind of rise in value instead of trying to do that yield curve control to keep it artificially low. It seems like to me the market wants to take the yen higher. That's
mm.
just my impression. But I mean, how long the situation will last, there's no telling. It could be a couple months, it could be a year or two. I just think that the powers that be, the global, elite, they're really focused on their friend shoring and their black politics. So I wonder how long it will be. And I think that one of the ministers in those articles kind of spoke to it. At some point, the U.S. is going to come and help drive the yen higher relative to the dollar. It's just a question of, when that happens. It's
Mm.
hard to say, but yeah, I mean, take advantage of it while you can. And I think that, when people get to Japan, there's been some talk, and maybe you'll cover this a bit later, so I won't go too much into it, but thoughts about Japan kind of going up on the value chain. So
Mm.
looking to, higher end travelers with longer stays and more spending, kind of like more like quality over quantity,
Mm.
that type of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But either way, this kind of kills the whole idea that, Japan is going to lock its borders and they're never going to open up again. No, that's exactly the opposite. Now more than ever, Japan is going to be opening up to the world.
Exactly. Well, before we move on to the next segment, got to give a shout out to JJ Wilson, and your intro, good sir.
Oh,
I'm not going there to die. I'm going to find out if I'm really alive.
So yeah, shout out to JJ Wilson, one of the long supporters of the Black Ronins. So
shout out to him. And I agree with Free Zone. I definitely dig that track. Like I noticed that our brother SKC was doing some music battle streams. So I think we need to basically take like some of the oldies and goodies, flip it and remix it and appropriate that for our own purposes.
but Shinobi bro, way ahead of you, sir.
Oh,
I'm looking to make some like retros and stuff mixes for our new supporters and everything. So let me just remind folks that if you want to get a new intro, feel free to donate to the Black Ronins of Japan podcast. You can do it by PayPal or by Cash App. And remember, if you do by PayPal, is actually a form of a super chat. So we'll be able to read your super chats and everything through this type of form. And the donations are 100% goes to yours truly here, Shinobi Bro and Osamurai-san. So hey, if you want to get in on the fun, jump while it can. So yeah. Now we get to the next fun part, and that is the top 3 posts of the month of
Uh-oh.
September.
Here we
And
go.
we definitely got some good ones for this month. So how this works is this. As you see in the chat from Bautissimo, Black Ronins of Japan does have an Instagram. And each month or each week we go through and we find videos from other Instagram users who are into the Japanese culture and Japanese martial arts, or just any type of martial arts. And we will post their videos on our platform and let the people vote on them. And at the end of the month, when we do our monthly streams like we're doing right now, we'll go through, see which ones had the most votes throughout the month, and we will feature them here on the Black Ronins podcast. So, without further ado, Shinobi wrote that music because we were talking about soundtracks and everything, and this special segment got its own kind of soundtrack,
Yeah, and I groove to that heavy, so let's kick it.
and we kick it. All right, coming in at number 3 for the month of September is This is a video from the username Hattori Hanzo and the Ninjas. They have some very good videos and whatnot, and one of them got voted for this month. So I'm breaking it up as we speak. All right, here we go. Interesting. He's doing this right at like a Temple Ground with the castle right behind him.
That is dope.
Yep. Just that ninja spirit. So shout out to Hattori Hanzo and the Ninjas for submitting your video. It came in at number 3 for the month of September. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Arigatou gozaimashita.
All right. Now, coming in at number 2 is a user by the name of my_Kyudo_life. Is a gentleman who actually practices Kyudo. And for those who don't know, Kyudo is Japanese version of archery. And so my Kyudo Life posted a video of how he goes about practicing Kyudo. And it's very, very interesting. So I'm pulling that up right now. And here we go. Now, this doesn't have music to it, but as you can see, he is very dedicated to the details.
That looks like it's just like begging for like a TikTok, like chop 'em up mix where they put the music to it and everything.
Yeah, if somebody could come in, like you said, do a TikTok and put like some samples behind it and all, yeah, this will definitely get the ball rolling.
So you could
Right now,
beatbox to it or something.
Yeah, right now he's shooting his last one, and that's it. So shout out to my_Kyudo_life. Thank you for sharing your video. It came in at number 2 for the month of September. Arigatou gozaimashita.
Arigatou gozaimashita.
All right. And now, coming in at number 1 is a user by the name of Warakiri underscore Batosa. And man, when you see this video, it is definitely awesome. So without further ado, let me share it for everybody to see.
Ooh.
And look how clean that cut is. I mean, it's still standing, but it was a clean cut. Man.
That's kind of like you're already dead. Like you're already dead, kid moment.
Right. Like, man, I hate to be on the opposite end of that.
I know.
Wow. So shout out to Warakiri underscore Batosai. Your video came in at #1 for the month of September. Arigatou gozaimashita.
Arigatou gozaimashita. Now, I was going to say, that kind of reminds me of like a Fist of the North Star moment. Like you get cut, but you don't realize it. And all of a sudden, all your limbs fall off. Blood everywhere.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, those are the top videos of the month for the month of September. If you would like to show off your martial arts or Japanese culture enthusiasts, just feel free to follow us on Instagram, share us your videos, and we'll definitely post them on our program and see if your video will become one of the top 3 for the following month. So thanks for everybody for participating. Arigatou gozaimashita.
Arigatou gozaimashita. And shout out to SKC and Nameless Protagonist. Omae mo shinderu.
So SKC said his son loves this. Like, does he love the top 10 or does he love like a particular video that we showed? Because hey, we definitely would like to show more of these. People enjoy them. All right,
Probably
but
likes
SKC,
the conversation about the yen, global currency markets.
Well, with that said, SKC, since you are here, good sir.
Oh,
that laugh, it gets me every single time.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, I love it though, because it's like it's so effortless. Like sometimes, I'll listen to talk to somebody, and the other person is clearly upset, and then SKC will just go off and just start laughing. And it just makes it that much more entertaining. So shout out to you.
See, SKC had to laugh himself, like. Right. But yeah, SKC, I'm also starting to be a fan of Kyudo, Japanese archery, and I'm really hoping there's going to be some more people we could bring up to interview to talk about Kyudo. Because Shinobi Bro, we interviewed Arayo from Kyoto. He does Kyudo, and then we also interviewed Jennifer TV, and she does it a lot on her Instagram channel. So yeah, definitely we'll be looking for more people to talk about Kyudo, because I definitely became a fan of it as well. All right, so now let's get more deeper into the intel that my co-host Shinobi Bro was talking about. So for those who are kind of thinking like, okay, the information about the yen, how the yen has not really collapsed, but is at its lowest state that has ever been in the past 24 years. Excuse me. And the question might be asked, okay, so what does that have to do with travelers? Well, let's just say it has a lot to do with travelers. So much so that the Japanese government, which was already trying to ease themselves back into fully reopening and all, they just went ahead and just said, you know what, screw it. We're just gonna do it live. Let's just do it live and go all the way in.
Mm-hmm.
So I got an article here from Japan Times that talks about this recent development, and we're actually going to be going much into details. So it says Japan to reopen to independent travelers and lift daily arrival cap, the Prime Minister of Japan, Kishida, says. So it says Japan will allow visa free independent tourism and abolish its daily arrival cap as of October 11th. Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said Thursday, marking a major policy shift after nearly 2.5 years of strict COVID-19 restrictions.
Yay.
Yeah, actually, you know what? Hold on a second, because I definitely got to get the sound effect for this because this is definitely major news. We usually save this for the emperor, but this is actually very convenient for this. Yeah, uh, definitely a bonsai moment.
Definitely.
It says the government will also launch a nationwide travel discount program, which had been shelved due to the spread of COVID-19 infections. Kishida made the long awaited announcement during his visit to New York for the UN General Assembly. I hope many people will utilize them, Kishida said at a news conference. I want to support the travel, entertainment, and other industries that have been struggling during the coronavirus pandemic. The decision was held by the nation's top two airlines. We are extremely happy to see the long awaited easing of restrictions. Shinichi Inoue, president of All Nippon Airways, the core unit of ANA Holdings, told reporters Friday. We will increase flights from the end of October to welcome customers from abroad. The economic impact of inbound travelers before the COVID-19 pandemic is said to be roughly 5 trillion yen.
Mm.
And we are pining great hopes that there will be economic effects of similar size, Inoue said, adding
That's
that the
all I
yen.
saw.
Oh, go ahead, Shinobi Bro.
If I may, because one thing we should keep in mind. So in the U.S., we had various schemes. We had the what was it, the PPP, Paycheck Protection Program. We had stimulus checks. We had child tax credits. So the U.S. government spent a whole bunch of money during the pandemic. Keep in
Mhm.
mind that the Japanese have not really done the same. They really haven't done a whole lot on the stimulus front. So you had a lot of these restaurants and these other venues just close up shop. It was really difficult because they did not have the same level of stimulus given to them as the U.S. did for its company. So I just wanted to throw that out there also.
Nice. And Knowledge, thanks for coming through. And definitely want to give a shout out to you for a Cash App donation of $5. He says, for I want Netero holding up the heart sign for me. So, with that said, Knowledge, thank you so much. And Aku is not happy about this.
Samurai, why won't you die?
So, shout out to
Yeah,
Knowledge
he
for
was not
that.
happy.
Yeah, arigatou gozaimashita.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
But yeah, Shinobi Road, you are absolutely correct because during the middle of the pandemic, most of the G7 nations were at least giving out some sort of stimulus package to help kind of keep their economy afloat while, most people were restricted from going outside or just traveling about in general. Japan didn't do that for its economy. And believe me, it suffered hugely. So much so that I remember Shinobi Bro, we did a stream either earlier this year or maybe during the summer. The former capital city, Kyoto, was almost on the brink of bankruptcy.
Oh yeah, I remember that. And maybe this article is going to address the Kyoto region. Um, but anyway, I'll wait and see before I comment. So go ahead and
Mm.
proceed.
Next, he said it will lead to stimulating regional economies as well, as there are many people who want to travel to different areas of Japan. Japan Airlines also welcomed the move, saying in a statement that the company will fully prepare to welcome visitors and contribute to revitalizing the Japanese economy. Japan has been following tourists since June, starting with people on guided tours. On September 7th, the government allowed those on non guided tours who had booked their flights and hotels through registered travel agencies. But those measures have been unpopular with many foreign tourists who want greater freedom during their trips. Tourists will need to be vaccinated 3 times or submit a negative COVID-19 test result ahead of their trip, Kyoto News reported, citing government sources. A nationwide domestic travel program offering discounts for travel, entry to theme parks, and for sporting events and concerts like Grand Sumo Tournament is also set to start on October 11th. People who have been vaccinated 3 times or submit a negative test result will be eligible for the discounts, according to the report. The program offers financial assistance of up to 11,000 yen, which is the equivalent of $77 per person for a one-night stay. The moves will be welcomed by the nation's tourism sector, which has been hit hard by the pandemic. Travel agencies have been urging the government to waive the visa requirement for tourists, which has been a major hurdle for those wishing to come to Japan. In some cases, prospective tourists had to submit their visa application in person to the nearest embassy or consulate, while others did not get their visas in time for their travel plans. In 2019, a record of 31.88 million foreign travelers visited Japan, but the figure plummeted to about 250,000 in 2021 due to the closed borders. The daily arrival cap has been raised gradually over the past 6 months, first to 5,000 on March the 1st, and eventually to the current 50,000 as of now. And then this article also shows the timeline of when the Japanese government shut down, how much impact it had, and then what were the small steps the Japanese government finally took to eventually reopening, and up to this point, reopening up on October the 11th. So yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so yeah, because I know we talked about Kyoto, and I was reading another article before we went on the air, kind of talking about perhaps Japan could pivot towards more of a like high value proposition.
Mm,
So maybe having their guests like extend their stay, maybe stay at maybe higher end like hotels or ryokan, like Japanese traditional inns, going to different prefectures and different places outside of kind of the Kyoto, Osaka, Tokyo um, areas and things like that. I mean, I'm curious to see kind of how they're going to handle that, because I think that, prior to the lockdown, I'm pretty sure that some Kyoto people were not especially thrilled with, millions and millions of foreign visitors, coming through the city, like all day, every day. So
mm.
I'm curious to see how that's going to get handled.
Yeah, and Shinobi Road, that's where I kind of check to see how much the Japanese people are embracing tourists, individual tourists and travelers finally coming to Japan. Now, for the most part, when we talk to Japanese around our age, like say Shoda-san and Emi-chan, They
Mm,
have been looking forward for foreigners like us to come there. Because in excuse me, in their world, they've been used to foreigners a lot, and so they realize the Japanese economy. This is the time to like really bring them back, boost the economy, help us support and everything. So they're all for it.
yeah.
Whereas I've yet to really talk to any older Japanese or elderly Japanese, but from what I've been hearing through the grapevine, the elderly Japanese are not too fond of how quickly the Japanese government is now reopening for tourism and individual travelers.
Hmm. Yeah, I think, because when we talk about, the beer bug, that
Mhm.
disease, if you kind of look at the numbers, was most deadly towards, the elderly. So, and I
Mhm.
think that kind of also is one of the reasons why we're seeing in China, we have, basically, the zero beer bug strategy, even though the rest of the world has pretty much moved on, but you still kind of see that in China. I think one of those reasons is that they want to try to protect their elderly populations. I mean, there's a variety of reasons for that, and Japan is a culture where the elderly have a lot of power.
Right.
Um, so I mean, I'm sure that um, Sori Daijin Kushida is going to have. He's probably going to take a hit, in terms of his poll numbers and stuff like that. But I think that, what we've been talking about is that, the younger people are for it, but also I think that the economics demand it because the yen needs demand. There has to be
Mhm.
a reason for people to want to switch out from dollars to buy yen, to switch out from euros to hold yen, so forth and so on, that kind of thing. So I think this is where the third largest economy in the world can't remain in isolation forever.
Yeah, I agree. To me, the rest of the world has kind of embraced that, you know, the beer bug is here to stay and everything. And, as long as you practice good hygiene and whatnot, it really won't have that much effect on you. And personally, I believe the beer bug is now nothing more than just a new form of the flu. And
Yeah.
so I think that's what other nations worldwide are kind of catching on. And it's like, well, hey, we can't just stop the economy to try to eradicate, you know, a flu that really is just going to be commonplace.
Yeah, I think Japan has so much to offer. I mean,
Hmm.
like for example, JJ was saying that an onsen would be that would hit the spot right now. I agree. Like if I was in country and there was an onsen close to me, then yeah, I'd be rolling out on a regular basis. So I mean, in between, I mean, Japan has, awesome food. Like, they don't get a lot of credit, but I think that Japan is a foodie country just like France is. I mean, they're kind of on the same level. My mother, God rest her soul, when we used to go over there to Japan, they have like these huge shopping complexes, like football field sized underground malls and stuff like that, and she would literally shop until she dropped. I mean, it's just there's just so many things that are attractive about the country. We've got the traditional culture, we've got kind of the modern culture, music, the people. There's just a lot of things going for it. So I think that and I think the Japanese are always mindful of preserving and protecting their culture and their cultural heritage. But I mean, there's plenty of people, respectful people that want to go and want to be a part of it. So why not? I mean, I think now's the time for them to make bank, to be honest.
Right. And speaking of culture and everything, so shout out to A Truism. I was on his stream. I want to say either yesterday or the day before, but actually, yeah, it was yesterday. He was asking me, like, do Japan do any sort of reenactments of events or like real, festivals and everything? And definitely there is one festival that I wish I was there right now, but it unfortunately it has happened and everything, so I'll have to catch it next time. But just to show you what festivals are happening as we speak, check out this particular festival called the Kishiwada Danjiri, and it is very interesting. So before I do that, let me make sure I have the fair use thing going on because you got to make sure people know that this is fair use stuff. But
Fair
here we
use,
go,
fair use.
fair use. Here we go.
The Kishiwada Danjiri Matsuri took place in western Japan on September 17. Participants pulled 34 shrine floats at high speeds through the streets of Kishiwada. Each wooden float weighs over 4 tons and carries a portable shrine. The event, dating back more than 300 years, was canceled for the first time in 75 years in 2020 due to the coronavirus. Last year, it was scaled down and held without spectators.
Now that is awesome. Man, I definitely have to find another time to go to see that. But can you just imagine being involved in a festival like that?
See, that's awesome, and that's what I appreciate. Like, I have conversations quite a bit with friends about. So, I volunteer every year for a festival, and it's right around Harvest Moon. So
Mm,
it's kind of like a fall festival matsuri kind of thing, westernized, of course, Western style. But I mean, cultures around the world have always held these kind of festivals to mark, significant times of the year. For example, earlier this month we had a Tsukimi, or like the moon viewing festival, kind of like the
mm.
harvest moon. I think that people are so busy looking at their iPhones that they're not connected with the heavens and the earth. They're not really in tune with, the seasons and the signs and things like that. And that's a real shame because, it's one of those things that, as people often say, you better figure out what time it is. And I think that when it comes to, human life and human interaction, these festivals are, important cultural markers. And, like the nameless protagonist was saying, foreigners who are willing to, be respectful and participate in these particular traditions. Yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. We preach this a lot here on the platform. A lot of people, there's been a lot of controversy over the blue book gentlemen and the passport holders and what they're doing and stuff like that. But way before that particular controversy came to the surface, we've been preaching for a long time. Understand the culture, speak the language, have some male friends on the ground in the cultures that you want to get involved in. Get on a plane and go. Your life is going to be, much better off for it. You're going to learn new things. You're going to meet new people. Who knows? Maybe you could meet a high quality Stargate while you're at it. I mean, people have predicted the death of travel and globalization. The naysayers are out there and they're trying to dissuade people. But no, get out there, be respectful, show that you're there to connect with people, and you'll be fine. You'll be all right.
Yeah, and speaking of high quality Stargates, Shinobi bro,
Ruh-oh.
shout out to Emmy John. She was our recent interviewer, oh excuse me, interviewee for this month, and I have to say, if there was ever an interview that gives you a glimpse of what Japan has to offer as a quality Stargate, if you're a
Mm-hmm.
true SYSBN practitioner,
Mm-hmm.
Emi-chan kind of gave you a glimpse of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been thinking, and because I noticed when I was looking as far as the comments and everything and all, like Emi-chan, she has a group following in and of itself. But I was kind of thinking to myself that unfortunately, there's not going to be many brothers who will appreciate the type of quality Stargate that someone like Amy Chan, for that
Mm,
matter. And that's because unfortunately they've been so caught up in the dysfunctions here in America, and you probably heard this before, Shinobi bro. You know, you got naysayers that want to say that all women are the same, no matter
mhm.
where you travel to or go to. You know, they're going to trick you. They're going to,
They're
you
gonna
know,
kill you.
kill you. All the traction and everything, and they don't realize that's projection from their own life because they
Mhm,
had a propensity to attract the wrong type of people.
mhm,
Now, if you change yourself up and you able to be productive in society and move up the ladder, you will find quality stargates, and especially from Japan, there's a whole bunch of them like Emi-chan.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I was very impressed. She was very polite. And I know I detected and I think I also kind of felt this with Shota-san when we spoke with him, the
Mm,
Japanese zest for life.
mm,
Like, you know, Emi-chan, she wanted to travel. She traveled, she had a great time. And you're not going to hold her back from that, right? She's going to do it.
right.
You can't tell her nothing basically when it comes to, going out into the world and things like that.
Mm.
And I think that Choda-san was very much the same. I mean, he's a Japanese man. A lot of people told him, don't go, they'll kill you, gun
Right.
violence.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Shoda-san and
Yeah, shout out to Shota-san.
in New Realm, Japan. But I mean, it's crazy the amount of pushback. And my thought is this: a lot of these arguments that we've been hearing, especially with regards to the Blue Book gentlemen, as one particular YouTuber calls them, they're making all these arguments against travel, and I'm like, well, you guys don't care. You really don't
Mhm.
care. You don't. Because, prior to, this whole thing becoming such a hot topic, you didn't have anything to say. I mean, guys have been traveling for decades, for generations.
Mhm.
And now all of a sudden you care about their safety. Oh, now you pretend that, oh no, they're gonna run game on you and they're just after your green card and this and that. I'm like, come on, man. You guys are just being disingenuous now. It's amusing, but it just makes me laugh. I'm like, you guys have no idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would just leave them to their own devices because, I mean, for the detractors, what power do they have? All they could do is just name, blame, and explain. Or excuse me, shame, blame, and explain. They can't do anything else outside of that. And so that's where, you know, anybody out there that wants to be a true practitioner of SYSBM, that's when you know you have full mastery of yourself. When you know that nothing anybody can say or tell you is going to change your outlook or perspective of life. That's when you know you have truly crossed over to the other side. And
Exactly.
even for people like Shota-san and Ami-chan, no, they're not SYSBM, but their philosophies are right in line with what we preach about. Even somebody,
Exactly.
even like somebody like our good friend Jason from the Jason Sumo channel. You
Shout out to
know,
Jason.
you
I've
know
been
his
following his coverage. He's been covering the most recent tournament. So me and my kids, we kind of gather around. We watch some of his videos. So salute to him.
right. Yeah, I've been keeping tabs on him as well. His love for sumo and the fact that he really has found his niche and has a great fan base with his Japanese audience and all. Even he shares the same philosophy of you have to do what's in your best interest. Forget what the naysayers are going to say or try to tell you and everything. You know, you are your own person. Make yourself happy.
Hmm. Yeah. And that's why we can have people like that on this platform and everything goes smooth. Like I'm thinking about Paul Sensei of the Japanese sword. And by the
Mm.
way, quick plug, if you go back and find that interview with him, you can find his contact information if you're interested in buying high quality Japanese swordsmanship, because he
Mm.
made a strong impression on me, that, some of these ancient crafts are in danger,
Yeah.
so I
And he'll
mean,
be back. He'll be back because we got more information to talk about with
oh yes,
Paul
yes.
Sensei.
Yeah, you know what? When we get to Japan, I might have to take him out to dinner or something, just because I would love to just sit down and talk. In fact, we had to probably get some of our interviewees, kind of get them together like a massive sit down somewhere. Maybe find some izakaya in Tokyo or something,
Oh yeah.
and just chop it up. But I mean, the fact that we can even say that is a testament to the fact that there's rules to this. SYSBM is not a random seat of your pants type of thing. It's been well thought about. The tenets have been well crafted. People are living the lifestyle, they're living the lyrics, and they're making connection with people from all over the planet. And so that just goes to show and prove that our path is the right one.
Indeed, Shinobi bro, and that's why I'm definitely looking forward to at least my personal trip coming up in November to just really go back and really decompress and immerse myself back in the authentication of Japanese culture. And of course, later on, Shinobi bro, me, you, your family, and my girl, we'll be linking up and do some more trips to Japan as well. But that's that's
Definitely.
where that's where for those in the chat and those listening in on the replays and all, yeah, you have to make that decision for yourself. As much as we talk about Japan and we talk about things that goes on there, good and bad, you know, you have to make that decision for yourself if you want to go there. I'll tell anybody that my first impression as an adult about Japan from an SYSBM standpoint was from yours truly, Kitagakure Jones. And after listening in to his videos from his former channel and all, it was like, you know what? I'm gonna finally go see this for myself. And I get there and I tell you from the jump, I was not disappointed. So, but again, I made that decision for myself. Had I, just been like, nah, Kitagakure Jones don't know what he's talking about. There's no
He's a
way.
cool, he's a
He's a
sellout.
he's a cool, he's a sellout. Ain't no way Japanese people are gonna be cool with a cool and all that stuff. I could have easily thought like that. But I said,
Right.
nope. I have already experienced somewhat a little bit of Japanese culture here in America. And I said, you know what? Let me go see the real thing. And that decision is why a part of my soul still remains in Japan and
Mm.
most likely will forever remain in Japan.
That's right. No, I mean, and it doesn't go away. Sometimes I think about the fact that because, me and Yankinata, we got married in Kyoto. So, we register our marriage at the Kyoto government office. And, my name is in the Koseki in the family registry. So I'm like,
Mm.
well, long after my bones have have returned back to the earth, my legacy will partially be in Japan, and that's an awesome and that's a humbling thought, because so many people have tried to blame and shame and naysay. There's so much fear. There's so much fear, and in some cases anger and disbelief. And I'm like, no, you gotta let go of all that. Just
Hmm.
like you say, you have to make the choice. You have to say, you know what, I'm either gonna live and just accept that, hey, I mean, my philosophy has always been, ever since I got on the internet, started talking to people, if you respect me, I respect you. I don't care what your ethnicity is, or your nationality or any of that. None of that matters to me. I care about, do you respect me? Yes. Okay. We can kick it. So, you have to make these decisions. just like, the government of Japan, I'm sure, I mean, it's not a popular decision like we've been talking about, but
Mm.
somebody looked at the numbers and they said, you know what? We got to open up.
Yeah.
And they made a decision, and and the Japanese, when they make a decision, it's all in to the very end.
Indeed, Shinobi, bro. So, for those who are wondering, okay, what is Japan going to look like this fall coming up? And I think this will give a little glimpse. And for sure, when I go there in November, it's going to be smack dab in the middle of the fall season. But this will give an idea of what the fall season is like in Japan. So, fair use.
Japan Fact File. Koyo. The Japanese word koyo refers to the changing colors of the leaves in autumn. Koyo literally means crimson leaf. And among beautiful autumn foliage, the Japanese have always been particularly fond of the maple leaf known as momiji. Check out the NHK World website for more information on Japan.
Yeah, that's what I got to look forward to, especially when I
Yeah.
travel to Kyoto.
Mad jealousy. Plus, shout out to the brother Xanatos Clutch. We did the interview with him. I think he was on the same page with us that we're definitely big fans of the Kansai region. I consider that to be my second home because that's where Young Hinata is from. And this may sound a bit lame, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I feel like the people match the scenery. Like, you've got like the array of colors and shapes and all that kind of stuff. The people reflect that too. They're interesting to look at, as I walk around and go hither and yon, especially in the Kansai, because they're so expressive, like with their dress and stuff like that. So, shout out to you. I'm looking forward to, whatever footage you decide to put up on the channel during your travels.
Yeah, I'm smiling ear to ear right now because it's like, man. First off, this is going to be my first trip to the Kansai region, so Osaka and Kyoto, and
Oh,
even
Majide.
yeah, and even
Suka.
Hyogo. Yeah,
Suka.
I can't wait to see what all I can experience there. And
Be
then, of
careful,
course,
brother. Be careful, Samurai-san. Because
hey,
listen, don't stand around nicely dressed with a fresh fade. Don't do it, bro.
well, I mean, my favorite barber, who also happens to be Hispanic, he's going to touch up my hair before I go. And I've already been complimented numerous times here about my haircut. So I can only
Uh-huh.
imagine,
Mhm.
once I travel to Japan, how much that's going to pay dividends. But, that's a talk for another day. But at least in the Kansai region, okay, there is one woman who is in that area who has full claim over me, and that is Miss Kagome.
All right, I
So
was gonna say she might have to bring some of those spirit words, some of those Gekkai spirit words and put them on you. Because that's how it goes down. So
yeah,
shout out to Miss Kagome.
yeah, and believe me, she is counting down the days, so she is fully expecting me once I come down there. But I'm already thinking about and take note, gentlemen, if you're listening in, as far as you want to be a full practitioner, SYSBM, or you just want to visit Japan. I'm already thinking about a scenic walk in the park, me and Miss Kagome. And as you saw with the trees, the colors, the crimson colors and all, I mean, what kind of man doesn't like that type of atmosphere?
You were lame, bro.
Well, I guess so. The naysayers, sad to say, when especially the males and all, when they go to Japan, their idea of Japan is
Extra!
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, honestly, okay. I will say if anybody want to know how I'm going to be acting as soon as my plane touches down, me and my homie who is becoming a practitioner of SYSPM. That's why he's coming with me because he loves Japan, but also he's single and ready to mingle. So I already know when me and him get off the plane, we're going to be walking through Japan like this.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Logic's finest, good sir. Hope you have a great time in the land down under.
Shout out to Logic's finest. Keep doing what you do.
Right. So, Shinobi, bro, we have come to the final segment of the stream tonight. What's your final thoughts at the moment?
Well, first of all, that clip though. Can you play that one more time before I get into my final thoughts?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, shit.
Uh,
I'm telling you, I'm gonna be walking just like that. me and my homie, like I said, he's already in the SYSBM style. He's single, ready to mingle and all.
uh-huh.
So me and him are just gonna be getting off that plane. The Japanese folks gonna look at us like, yeah, this the SYSBM type.
I mean, if he's your disciple, then if he's your disciple, I know he's well trained. So you know what the deal is. Just tell him to wear something nice. Make sure his fade is on point. Good manners, and just put him out somewhere like in front of the train station. And within 30 minutes to an hour, he'll be all right.
Right. And nameless protagonist, sir, I'm also going to be hitting you up, good sir, because I know you. We definitely was trying to make plans for the interview and all. So if you still got time, good sir, we would definitely can make that happen next month. But definitely shout out to you, nameless protagonist.
Shout out. Been a long time, so good to chop it up. But anyway, okay.
Mm.
I know we're getting long in the tooth here on the stream tonight, but I'm having a good old time. So well, I think what we can take away from this is the relationship between the United States and Japan is not moving apart. In fact, it is only getting closer, and it's going to be at all levels from government, business, industry, finance, all the way down to the personal level, befriending people on the ground. So, for those who are interested in Japan and Japanese culture, I mean, there are people there that are waiting for you to come and, just be respectful, be polite, be open to trying new experiences, try to understand the way that, the Japanese people do things. And you're going to have a life-changing experience because I feel like that what Japan has managed to do that a lot of Western countries have not done. And we could say, maybe this is due to the Enlightenment or other reasons that's beyond the scope of this conversation. But I think they've managed to hold on to a mystical, spiritual worldview where the mystical and the practical, the spiritual and the mundane, they kind of coexist with each other. So it's a modern society, but it still kind of moves with the ancient rhythms of life. So I think for me personally, it awakened this sense of being connected to the world, to nature, to other people. So it can do a lot for you. And here lately, there's been a lot of talk out here in the YouTube streets about the Blue Book gentlemen and what they're doing and why are they doing it. And you shouldn't do it, or here's reasons why you should not travel and not experience new things. But that's all bunk. It's all garbage. It is the talk of people who have not experienced for themselves. Japan desperately wants people to come. They want people to be respectful. They want people to see the country. They want people to spend their money. So, you got to pay to play sometimes. Not in that sense, but I mean, you if you're traveling, you're going to spend money, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that, take advantage, YOLO, as people once said. I'm sure they don't say it now, but you only live once. Don't listen to the haters. Do your research, get your friends on the ground, speak the language, buy the ticket, get your blue book, and go and experience, and you'll come back forever changed. That's my thought. That's my word.
Awesome, Shinobi, bro. And you know what, Shinobi, bro? Every time you give those awesome backdrops of that, I mean, my whole reaction is pretty much like this. That's my reaction, because it's like, man, how do you come back and really top that and everything? So I mean, yeah. Yeah, but everything you just said, I fully agree 1,000%. Like I said before, we could talk about Japan and talk about the pros and cons, the beauties, the wonders, the things that have happened in Japan and everything. We could talk about all of that, but you won't get the full experience of it until you go there yourself. And, there was a book review that I just did not too long ago about a brother who went to Japan, but he went for the wrong reasons. And he made costly mistakes there that ended up costing him. And to me, that book is just there as to heed a warning for those who want to go to Japan for the wrong reasons. If you think you're going to go there and be some passport pookie and think you can get away with a lot of things, I would advise you right now, just stay home. Just stay home. Keep yourself from getting in trouble, because you will be in for a world of hurt. But for those like us who appreciate the culture, who have no problem intermingling with the men and women of those cultures, Japan is just a wonderful, wonderful place, and I highly recommend you go there. So, with that said, we definitely want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you for listening in and tuning in. And also thank you for those who will be listening in on the after stream. And by the way, this particular stream will be uploaded onto Anchor, Spotify, and Amazon Music. So you'll be able to listen to it for free on those platforms. So if you're one where you want to listen to it on the road but can't really utilize it with YouTube and everything, well, there's those avenues where you can listen to the audio version and whatnot. So definitely, feel free to stop by those places. Bautissimo is posting those links in the chat as we speak. And this episode will definitely be uploaded within a few hours on those platforms. So thanks for tuning in. Next month, we have a special Black Ronins podcast episode we're going to do right before I take my trip to Japan. So you'll definitely want to tune in for that regular stream coming up next month. But with that said, I am your host, Osamurai-san. The Shinobi Bro is here as well. Until next time, this is the way.
This is the way.
We'll be right back.